The United States is ramping up pressure on Vladimir Putin by imposing sanctions on two of his children. Putin is known for keeping his private life separate from his role as a statesman. He speaks rarely, if ever, about his daughters, and the identity of any romantic partner remains a mystery. However, this secrecy doesn't mean his family steers clear of Russian politics. On the contrary, recent investigations suggest that Putin uses his family as a shield to conceal much of his vast, ill-acquired fortune. Their well-guarded privacy means no one knows the full extent of the wealth tied to the Kremlin's first family. Yet, it's becoming increasingly clear that Putin's family possesses far more riches than most would imagine. So, who exactly is part of Putin's inner circle? With an estimated net worth reportedly hovering around $230 billion, often labeling him the world's wealthiest individual, it's safe to say Putin likely surpasses even those figures. Absolutely yes. If the wealthiest man on Earth suspects that Putin surpasses him in riches, it begs the question, just how wealthy is Putin? And if a significant portion of Putin's fortune is tied to his family, then how staggering is their combined wealth? Determining an exact number is no easy task. Generally, people estimate his net worth to fall somewhere between $300 billion and $500 billion. It might sound absurd, and that's because it isn't true. In reality, Putin's wealth far exceeds those figures. His fortune, along with his family's, is intrinsically linked to the financial power of the Russian state itself. The combined wealth of Russia's adult population stands at a staggering $3.8 trillion, and that figure roughly mirrors the fortunes of the dictator's family. Meanwhile, if the entire Russian economy is valued at $1.862 trillion, then that amount effectively represents Putin's personal worth. This is because Russia operates as a dictatorship where all state resources are at Putin's beck and call, period. Anyone claiming otherwise fails to comprehend the extent of control Putin and his family exert over the nation. Their dominance is uncompromising. However, in an unusual sense, this has always been the case. Power has long coursed through the Putin family's history, even back when they were impoverished farmers. In fact, Vladimir Putin's ancestry traces back to the 17th century in the Tver region of Russia. Here, the Putins, along with connected families like the Shelemovs, Chersonovs, Bojanovs, and Fomins, toiled as peasants, managing the hardships and trials of an agrarian existence. Yakov Nikitin, one of Vladimir Putin's earliest documented forebears, was born between 1627 and 1628. Originally a Georgian Jew, he eventually settled in the Tver district, where he served under the boyar Ivan Nikitic Romanov, the uncle of Tsar Michael Fedorovich. For generations, the Putin family remained rooted in Tver, maintaining their peasant lifestyle. They endured the tumultuous eras that brought the rise and collapse of empires, bearing witness to the transformative events that shaped Russian history. By the 19th century, Spiridon Putin, Vladimir Putin's grandfather, emerged as a notable figure. He worked as a personal chef for both Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin, placing himself within close proximity to absolute political power, something that would foreshadow his grandson's eventual path to leadership. Spiridon's son, Vladimir Putin Sr., played a crucial role during the Second World War, bravely defending his country. Though he sustained severe injuries in the war, the family's economic circumstances remained dire. It was within this environment of poverty that Vladimir Putin grew up, ultimately carving out a 17-year career in the KGB, the Soviet Union's now-defunct intelligence agency. His dedication and expertise within the organization became the stepping stone for his future in politics, eventually leading to his presidency and autocratic rule. In 1998, Vladimir ascended to the presidency of Russia. By 2012, he effectively transitioned into the role of an unchallenged autocrat. Yet, this was merely one aspect of his life. On the other hand, Putin was also a devoted family man. On July 28, 1983, he tied the knot with Lyudmila Shkreveneva. The couple would go on to have two daughters, Maria, the eldest, born in Leningrad in 1985, and Katerina, who came along a year later during their time in Germany, where Putin was stationed with the KGB. Both girls were named in tribute to their grandmothers, with Maria often affectionately called Masha and Katerina known as Katia. However, their lives changed significantly when Putin stepped into the role of acting president. To ensure their safety and maintain a level of privacy, the girls were removed from traditional schooling and educated at home by private tutors. Although biographers described Putin as a caring father, it became evident that the demands of his political career created distance and strained his bond with his daughters. As he climbed the ranks of power, his interactions with them grew increasingly infrequent. One of Putin's early biographers observed that after his initial appointment as prime minister, the family became more secluded, living under strict security measures. Despite this physical separation, Maria and Katerina maintained a deep respect for their father, often expressing admiration for him. However, it was evident that their accessibility to him was not what it once had been during their younger years. As the daughters matured, their father's political success continued to soar, accompanied by growing speculation about his personal affairs. His marriage to Lyudmila Shkreveneva, his first wife and the mother of his children, showed clear signs of tension. Reports indicated that Ludmila was deeply unhappy, and the warmth between the couple seemed to have diminished. After many years together, they publicly announced their divorce in 2013. This divorce became a pivotal moment in how the public perceived Putin's private life. Ludmila had faded from view in Putin's public appearances, and rumors regarding his purported relationships with other women began to gain traction. Olympic gymnast Elena Kabayeva was rumored to have been romantically involved with Putin, with speculation suggesting they had 2 children together. Despite their father's controversies and the scrutiny surrounding him, Maria and Katerina embarked on separate career journeys. Maria initially pursued a degree in biology before moving on to medical school, whereas Katerina focused her studies on Asian culture during college. Both sisters attended their respective universities under assumed names to maintain their privacy and ensure their safety. However, at some stage, the daughters needed to settle down and marry, which complicated efforts to keep them and the immense wealth tied to their father's name out of the spotlight. Yet, much of the public discussion remained dominated by conjecture. The exact identities of the Putin daughters' spouses were shrouded in mystery. Among the prevailing speculations was the claim that Maria married Dutch businessman Jorrit Fassen. Although the specifics of their relationship timeline are uncertain, it is widely believed that the two eventually wed. In a 2017 discussion with filmmaker Oliver Stone, Putin openly acknowledged being a grandfather, subtly alluding to the possibility of Maria and Jorrit's child. Nonetheless, little is known about their private family life or how active a role Putin plays in his grandparenting duties. Meanwhile, Katerina has attracted significant attention, primarily due to her rumored associations and extravagant lifestyle. Back in 2013, she tied the knot with Russian billionaire Kirill Shamalov during a lavish celebration at the Igora Resort in Leningrad. The event, heavily secured, featured a laser light show, ice skating performance, and a recreated Russian village for the guests. Yet their marriage did not last long, ending in divorce in 2018. Financial disclosures from their split revealed they collectively held assets worth an astonishing $2 billion. Additionally, flight data has linked Katerina to a purported relationship with German ballet star Igor Zelensky, which allegedly resulted in a daughter. Between 2017 and 2019, Katerina reportedly made over 50 discreet trips to Munich, frequently accompanied by members of the presidential security detail assigned to her father. The specifics of their relationship, along with the present state of their association, remain unknown. Another enigmatic individual tied to Putin is Svetlana Kravonijic, who previously worked as a cleaning lady. Allegations suggest that Kravonijic shared a close bond with Putin during the late 1990s and early 2000s, a relationship rumored to have resulted in the birth of a daughter named Elizaveta Vladimirovna Rozova. Although no official acknowledgement of this connection exists, some observers have pointed out a striking resemblance between Elizaveta and Putin, fueling ongoing speculation about her parentage. These alleged ties and controversies involving Putin's children have drawn attention from the global community. In 2022, the United States imposed sanctions on Maria and Katerina, accusing them of amassing wealth at the expense of Russian citizens. These penalties severed their access to the U.S. financial system and froze any assets they held within the country. Similarly, nations including the United Kingdom, European Union, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan implemented comparable measures, heightening the scrutiny surrounding their private lives. Additionally, the assets of Putin's sons-in-law were frozen as part of these actions. The reasoning behind these measures is straightforward. Putin relies on his family as an intermediary to handle assets and carry out financial dealings on his behalf. This approach provides a Russian leader with a layer of protection, keeping him removed from scrutiny and any questionable financial activities. Now that we've established a clear understanding of who we're talking about, let's focus on the next question. What are we dealing with? Exactly how much wealth has Putin stashed away through his family, close companions, and trusted associates? The wealth of Vladimir Putin. In every war, there's always a key antagonist, someone who shapes the conflict, the politics, and the underlying drama. In this war, that figure is Putin. And, to be honest, he fits the profile perfectly. From his background as a spy to his unexpected climb to power and his secretive private life, countless mysteries surround him. This evening, we delve into an intriguing question. Just how wealthy is Vladimir Putin? Officially, the Russian president appears to lead a modest life with an unassuming income. In 2020, the Kremlin disclosed his yearly salary to be $140,000. By contrast, the U.S. president's constitutionally mandated salary stands at $400,000 annually, more than double Putin's official earnings. On the surface, these figures seem straightforward. However, as many of you may know, this isn't the complete story. Declassified records revealed that back in 2007, Putin's personal net worth was estimated at $280,000. At the same time, he possessed a private 833-square-foot apartment located in St. Petersburg, alongside other holdings. But the plot thickens. In 2012, Putin was spotted sporting several luxury wristwatches with a combined value of $700,000, an amount that dwarfs his yearly income 6 times over. Interestingly, Putin has a history of gifting watches worth tens of thousands of dollars to others, hinting that there's far more to his financial situation than meets the eye. For instance, during a 2009 vacation, he reportedly gave a Blancpain watch to a young Siberian boy he encountered. Among 337 luxury watch brands globally, Blancpain ranks as the 15th most expensive. Some analysts claim, if Elon Musk's endorsement isn't compelling enough, that Putin could be the richest man alive, with an estimated fortune reaching $200 billion. While that sum might sound absurdly high, it starts to seem plausible when considering the evidence. In the late 2010s, glimpses of Putin's lavish watch collection began surfacing. He was frequently spotted with luxury timepieces valued at many times his supposed yearly salary. Examples include a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar worth $60,000 and an alleged $500,000 a Lang & Son turbograph, along with other extravagant models. Still, if this doesn't provide enough support for the claim of a $200 billion net worth, there's another possession of Putin's that might change your mind. Behold a vast 190,000 square foot estate perched on a cliff within a protected national park, overlooking the Black Sea. This mansion is believed to have cost $1.4 billion to build. Back in 2012, Sergei Kolesnikov, a former collaborator of Putin, disclosed that Deputy Prime Minister Igor II had assigned him to oversee the construction of an opulent Italian-style palace near Praskovivka, a village close to the Black Sea. This colossal project allegedly had a $1 billion price tag. According to Kolesnikov, the estate, situated on government-owned land and featuring 3 helipads, a private, state-funded access road, and guards dressed in Kremlin Guard Service uniforms, was designed exclusively for Putin's personal use. On January 19, 2021, just 2 days after Alexei Navalny was arrested upon his return to Russia, he and the Anti-Corruption Foundation, FBK, released an investigative video accusing Vladimir Putin of using illicitly obtained funds to construct an enormous estate billed as the world's largest bribe. Navalny's report alleged that the estate's vast dimensions were 39 times the size of Monaco, and that its construction had cost more than $1.35 billion. The video showcased drone footage of the property, a detailed blueprint shared by contractor, and side-by-side comparisons with leaked images from inside the palace dating back to 2011. Additionally, Navalny exposed a complex web of corruption tied to Putin's close associates, which facilitated the concealment of billions of dollars funneled into the estate's development. His claims proved accurate upon further investigation, revealing that the estate in question, overseen by Sergei, was in fact the notorious Black Sea Mansion. Often referred to as Putin's private palace, this coastal residence is deemed the largest private home in Russia and nicknamed his country cottage by the media. The sprawling estate is essentially a lavish retreat, reportedly featuring ornate frescoed ceilings, a marble swimming pool adorned with Greek god statues, a 27,000 square foot guest house, traditional hammam spas, a music room, staff dressing areas, an amphitheater, an advanced ice hockey arena, a Las Vegas-inspired casino, a nightclub complete with stripper poles, a bar boasting over $100,000 worth of wine and spirits, and an underground tasting room with water views, among other extravagant details. Much of the interior was said to be furnished by the exclusive Italian luxury brand Cittario Edina, combined with opulent Louis XIV-style sofas, $500,000 worth of dining room furniture, and an eye-catching $54,000 bar table. The bathrooms are even outfitted with luxurious details, including Italian-made toilet brushes priced at $850 and toilet paper holders costing $1,250 each. Beyond these opulent furnishings, a staggering $2 million annually is utilized solely for landscaping upkeep, which requires the efforts of a 40-person crew. The lavish mansion overlooking the Black Sea, often linked to Putin, was crafted by Italian architect Lanfranco Cirillo. A Reuters investigation suggests that the funding for this extravagant endeavor may have been funneled through Russia's $1.3 trillion Ruble Health National Project. As part of this initiative, the government purchased costly medical equipment from a company owned by Putin's associates, Shamalov and Gorilov, at prices significantly above market value. Documents reveal that approximately $56 million ended up in Swiss bank accounts linked to a Belize-based entity, which then wired about $48 million to an account tied to Media Investment, a firm managed by Cirillo. Both Shamalov, Gorilov, and Cirillo have consistently denied these accusations. However, that's not the only denial involved. Remarkably, the Kremlin itself denies any connection between the mansion and Putin, instead claiming that the estate belongs to a wealthy businessman. But it raises questions. What kind of affluent entrepreneur secures their residence with FSB guards, Russia's Federal Security Service? And how many private citizens have the authority to impose a no-fly zone in the airspace above their property? Alongside the purported Black Sea resort, Putin has also been linked to 19 luxury residences, a fleet of 700 cars, and a collection of 58 aircraft and helicopters. Among these is the Flying Kremlin, a $716 million plane equipped with opulent features, including a gold-plated toilet. Given his penchant for extravagant neoclassical designs, it's no shock that he owns a $100 million mega-yacht crafted by a former nuclear submarine manufacturer for the Russian Navy, ensuring he has access to transport by land, air, or sea. Since the escalating tensions leading to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Putin has opted for travel in an armored train instead of taking to the skies. Now, I don't need to elaborate on how Putin accumulated such immense wealth, as it's clear he has the nation's assets at his fingertips. However, one particular tale is worth recounting, often described as the largest blackmail operation in modern history. The amount in question? A staggering $200 billion. This figure was proposed by financier Bill Browder during his 2017 testimony before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. According to Browder, the majority of Putin's fortune stemmed from the aftermath of oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky's imprisonment in 2003 on charges of tax evasion and fraud. After Khodorkovsky was sentenced, other oligarchs reportedly sought guidance from Putin on how to avoid meeting the same fate. Putin's alleged response? Half. Not 50% for the Russian government or any state institution, but a personal 50% cut for Vladimir Putin himself. In addition to everything else, the renowned Panama Papers in 2016 exposed a web of hidden offshore arrangements and loans totaling $2 billion, all allegedly linked to Putin. Unsurprisingly, Vladimir dismisses these claims, opting instead to acknowledge only a different kind of wealth. He's been known to declare, "I am the richest man, not just in Europe but worldwide. My wealth comes from the emotions I gather. I am rich because the people of Russia have twice placed their trust in me to lead such a remarkable nation as Russia. That I consider my greatest treasure." Despite the accumulation of documentation and witness accounts implicating him, the Russian leader keeps up the facade of being an unassuming public servant with the modest lifestyle of someone in the middle class. Putin's fortune, political or otherwise. I believe Putin is far wealthier than I am. You really think so, huh? Sure. Here's the rewritten transcript. Yeah, well, I can't really navigate larger nations and such. There's this saying, I think it might have been Crassus who said it, that true wealth is when you can maintain a private army. Elon Musk had a point. Look at Putin, he's got his own private force, the Wagner Group, not to mention the FSB. Though it's fair to say the FSB follows his orders as well. My point is, ever since Putin rose to power, anyone daring to oppose him has met a mysterious and often tragic fate. Take Anna Politkovskaya, for instance. She was a journalist from Russia who openly criticized Putin. In her book titled Putin's Russia, she accused him of transforming the country into a police state. 3 years after it was published, in 2006, she was killed. Anna was assassinated by hitmen who fatally shot her at close range inside the elevator near her apartment. 5 individuals were found guilty of her murder, but the court determined it was a paid assassination with a $150,000 bounty funded by an unknown party. Who was behind the death of Alexander Litvinenko? His case and image are widely known. Litvinenko, a former KGB operative, passed away in 2006, 3 weeks after consuming a cup of tea at a London hotel that had been contaminated with the lethal radioactive substance polonium-210. Outspoken in his criticism of Putin, Litvinenko accused him of various acts, including orchestrating an apartment bombing and sanctioning the assassination of Anna Politkovskaya. A British investigation concluded that Litvinenko was poisoned by FSB operatives Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun, who carried out the act under orders likely authorized by Nikolai Patrushev, a key figure close to Putin. Then there's Alexei Navalny, who recently died under suspicious circumstances. While the Kremlin attributes his death to sudden death syndrome, those familiar with the situation dismiss this as baseless. Navalny himself had warned that should he die in custody, it would be the result of foul play. That is the one thing that no amount of money can acquire. Putin wields military strength, political influence, and control over his own private force. While we'll delve into the details of his military power shortly, we need to address his private force, more notoriously known as the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group is a network of organizations operating under the guise of a private military company, PMC, offering services in both combat and security. There's nothing unusual about PMCs. They're frequently utilized by governments for various purposes, as seen during the U.S. engagements in Iraq and Afghanistan. However, Russia's approach to employing PMCs stands in stark contrast to how Western nations utilize them. While Western countries often rely on private contractors for operational flexibility and to maintain plausible deniability, Russia uses them as an extension of its government, an unofficial, yet integral, part of the state's machinery. These groups operate under the direct authority of none other than Putin himself. This is why, when the enigmatic founder of the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, emerged from the shadows and dared to challenge Putin in the Kremlin, he was eliminated. On August 23, 2023, Prigozhin's name appeared on the passenger list of an aircraft that went down in Russia, resulting in the deaths of 10 individuals, according to authorities. However, officials have refrained from providing definitive confirmation regarding the identities of the other victims in the incident. But what else would you anticipate from someone with 17 years of experience in the KGB as a foreign intelligence operative before transitioning into a political role? It has certainly paid dividends. Putin not only has access to Russia's nuclear codes, but also commands the full power of the nation's military forces. With an astronomical defense expenditure of $84 billion, Russia underscores its dedication to military strength. This massive budget allocation isn't merely a trivial sum. It signifies their resolve to remain a dominant force on the world stage. With ongoing conflicts, such as the tense situation in Ukraine, analysts predict this defense spending will only escalate in the approaching years. Let's take a closer look at the figures. Russia's armed forces comprise a total of 1,330,900 personnel, positioning it as the fifth largest military in the world. Among these forces, there are 840,000 active duty members, supplemented by a reserve force of 250,000 and roughly 250,000 individuals serving in paramilitary units. Now let's dive into the equipment. On the ground, Russia's military inventory is undeniably vast. Their arsenal includes an impressive 12,556 tanks, around 151,641 military vehicles, and a total of 14,798 artillery units, which encompass self-propelled, towed, and rocket variants. It's evident that Russia's military strength and assets are formidable, positioning them as a significant contender in warfare. At 45 tons with a 3-person crew, the T-90M is considered Russia's most advanced tank. Equipped with a 125mm gun composed of steel and composite armor, this tank is a powerhouse. Its cutting-edge 2A46M 4-gun offers exceptional range and is capable of firing anti-tank missiles at distances of 4 to 5 kilometers, while also being equipped to engage low-altitude helicopters. Russia's air power encompasses a fleet of 4,182 aircraft, with 773 fighter jets, 744 attack jets, 1,531 helicopters, and 537 of the attack variety. Leading Russia's aerial capabilities is the Sukhoi Su-57 Felon, their most prized aircraft. The fifth-generation stealth fighter jet was crafted to excel at neutralizing a wide range of targets on land, in the air, and at sea, and it accomplishes this mission with remarkable efficiency. It is widely considered by many as one of, if not the most, advanced fighter jets ever developed. On the maritime front, Russia's capabilities are equally formidable. Its naval power boasts 598 vessels, including 1 aircraft carrier, 15 destroyers, 11 frigates, 86 corvettes, 70 submarines, 59 patrol vessels, and 49 mine warfare ships. Among these, the crown jewel is the Kirov class, the Soviet Project 1144 All-in, commonly referred to as the Sea Eagle. This class of nuclear-powered, guided missile battlecruisers is not only a key asset of the Russian Navy, but also holds the distinction of being the world's largest and heaviest operational surface combat ship. Few adversaries worldwide can contend with this impressive and fearsome warship. For those curious about the true breadth of Putin's wealth, both the fortune concealed within his family and the riches hidden in plain view, this represents merely the beginning of the picture. This showcases the complete scope of the wealth tied to Putin and his lineage.